Hello and welcome to the Sleepy Scholar. I'm so glad you're here. Maybe you're tucked under the blankets, curled on the couch, or just letting the weight of the day finally sink into the mattress. Wherever you are, this is a quiet corner of the night where science slows down and lets curiosity wander. Tonight, we're unraveling one of the biggest misconceptions in all of physics: gravity. You've been told it's just a force that pulls things down, like some invisible hand keeping your feet on the floor or your phone aimed directly at your face when you drop it in bed. But the truth is stranger, richer, and far more cosmic than that. Gravity isn't just a pull. It bends space itself. It shapes time. It choreographs the entire universe. And almost everyone gets it wrong. Don't worry, this isn't going to feel like a late-night physics exam. Think of it more like a bedtime story, where the ground beneath you becomes part of a cosmic stage, and the stars above are dancers moving to gravity's hidden rhythm. If it leaves you wide-eyed instead of sleepy, well, at least you'll have the universe's strangest bedtime story tugging at you. A fair exchange, I'd say. Before we begin, if you enjoy these calm little journeys into science, it would mean the world if you tapped the like button, subscribed, or left a comment telling me where you're listening from and how gravity is holding you down tonight. All right, take a deep breath, feel the pull of the earth beneath you, and let's begin with why almost everyone is wrong about gravity. You're standing, maybe slouching a little, maybe barefoot on the floor, and there it is, the most ordinary, most unnoticed companion of your entire life, that steady tug beneath your feet. You don't think about it when you brush your teeth or grab a late-night snack, but without it, your toothpaste, your cereal bowl, and yes, even you would have dramatically different life choices. Gravity. The word itself feels like it should be monumental, but the truth is, it's so woven into your day-to-day existence that it almost disappears. The pull of gravity is like background music you forget is playing until someone turns it off, and then suddenly the silence feels deafening. But here's the real twist. Most of what you think you know about gravity is probably wrong, and it's not your fault. Blame Isaac Newton. Blame the way we learned about it in school. Or maybe blame that one animated apple that always falls on the wrong side of the cartoon professor's head. Either way, gravity has a PR problem. It's been typecast as the thing that makes stuff fall. End of story. But the story is much richer, stranger, and funnier than you might expect. Let's start with the myth of heaviness. Right now, wherever you're lounging, you feel your body pressing into whatever's beneath you, your chair, your bed, maybe your unfortunate dog if you forgot to check before plopping down. That sensation is what we call weight. But here's the trick. Weight is not gravity itself. Weight is just your body complaining about being blocked. If you were floating in a spacecraft orbiting Earth, you'd still be pulled toward the planet. Gravity hasn't gone anywhere. But because nothing is pushing back against you, you'd feel weightless. It's like being in a cosmic hammock where the ropes are invisible. You're still tethered, but you don't feel the tug directly. Weight, in short, is your body's awkward argument with the floor. Gravity is just the quiet host orchestrating the entire debate. Think about standing on Earth like being at a concert where the crowd is packed shoulder to shoulder. You're pressed from all sides, but not because the guy next to you is obsessed with personal space violations. It's because everyone is reacting to the same invisible pull dragging them toward the stage. The ground, acting like an ultimate bouncer, refuses to let you through. That's weight. Take the ground away, and suddenly you and the guy who smells faintly of popcorn are both falling together, weightless, even though the pull hasn't let go for a second. Now, if you were taught in school that gravity is the force that pulls objects toward Earth, well, that's true, but also kind of misleading. It's like describing pizza as bread with stuff on it. Technically accurate, but you're missing 90% of the magic. The ancient Greeks had their theories too, Aristotle, bless his toga, thought heavy objects naturally sought the ground and lighter things naturally sought the sky. A feather floated not because of air resistance, but because it was lighter and preferred being higher up. That idea held for centuries until one day Galileo, armed with curiosity and a suspiciously solid understanding of ramps, started poking holes in it. By rolling balls down slopes and dropping objects, he realized that all things fall the same way if you remove air resistance. A hammer and a feather, side by side, should smack the ground together like synchronized divers. The only reason we don't see it on Earth is that air rudely interferes, pushing on the feather more than the hammer. Fast forward to Apollo 15, when astronaut David Scott actually performed the experiment on the moon. With no air to spoil the fun, the feather and hammer landed in harmony. Aristotle would have been shocked. Galileo, meanwhile, was probably smirking from beyond the grave. Then came Isaac Newton, who gave gravity its first real rebranding. Legend says an apple fell on his head, though in reality it was more likely that he just saw an apple fall while sipping tea in his mother's garden. Either way, Newton had the audacity to ask, if apples fall to Earth, what keeps the moon up there? His answer was bold. Maybe the same pull that brings apples down is also tugging on the moon. Suddenly, gravity wasn't just about fruit bruises and clumsy moments, it was cosmic. Newton's law of universal gravitation was born. Every object with mass pulls on every other object with mass. Yes, that means you are technically pulling on your coffee mug right now, and your coffee mug is returning the favor. It's a pretty weak attraction, though, unless you happen to be the size of a planet. Sorry to break it to you, but you are not currently irresistible to your mug. Not gravitationally, at least. Newton's equations were so elegant they held up for centuries. They could predict planetary orbits, explain tides, and even help launch spacecraft. But they also carried a sneaky little flaw. Newton couldn't explain how gravity worked. He knew the math, but the mechanism was a mystery. He famously admitted, "I frame no hypotheses," which is basically the science equivalent of saying, "Don't ask me about the plumbing, I just designed the house." For all his genius, gravity still had its secrets. Enter Einstein, centuries later, with hair that looked like he stuck a fork in an outlet. He took one look at Newton's invisible pulling force and said, "Nah, that's not it." Instead, he described gravity as the bending of space itself. Picture space not as an empty stage, but as a stretchy trampoline. Put a heavy bowling ball in the middle, and the fabric dips. Now roll a marble nearby, and it curves inward, not because the bowling ball reached out with invisible arms, but because the marble is following the slope of the stretched fabric. That's gravity. Suddenly, weight and falling and orbits all made sense in a new way. Your body isn't being pulled down as much as it's sliding into the natural curve Earth makes in the fabric of space. You're a marble on a cosmic trampoline, only instead of bouncing joyfully, you're stuck there, trying to get to the fridge. And this is where most people's understanding of gravity stops. Apples, trampolines, Einstein memes. But think about it. How strange is it that we experience gravity every waking second of our lives, and yet we barely notice it? Imagine if taste buds worked the same way, always active, always influencing your choices, but so constant you forgot food even had flavor. Gravity is like the baseline of existence. You don't hum it, but without it, the whole song collapses. Let's zoom in on your body for a second. Right now, your spine is compressed under the Earth's pull. It shrinks you just a tiny bit during the day. That's why you're fractionally taller in the morning than you are at night. Every time you collapse onto your mattress after a long day, gravity is part of the reason your bones and muscles sigh of relief. Your blood pressure is shaped by it, your inner ear depends on it for balance, and even the way your stomach digests food is tuned to Earth's pull. It's not just a cosmic force, it's a roommate you can never evict. But here's the kicker. For all our understanding, we still don't really know what gravity is. We can describe it, we can measure it, we can even predict its behavior with mind-blowing accuracy, but we don't know the engine behind it. Physicists are still arguing. Is it carried by hypothetical particles called gravitons? Is it woven into space-time itself in a way we can't yet untangle? Every answer just opens a new door. It's as if the universe is dangling the solution just out of reach, like a cat toy we can never quite grab. And that's both frustrating and deliciously exciting. So when you feel that pull beneath your feet, don't shrug it off as ordinary. It's the same phenomenon that binds galaxies, that ignites stars by crushing hydrogen into fusion, that shapes the very story of the cosmos. Gravity is the stage manager of reality, shoving everything into place while pretending not to exist. It's also the reason you're not currently floating into your ceiling fan like a startled balloon. And maybe that's where the real misunderstanding comes in. People think gravity is simple because it's always there, but the most familiar forces are often the most mysterious. Every time you drop your keys or your phone, which, let's be honest, happens more often than you'd like, you're participating in one of the greatest unsolved riddles of the universe. That thud on the floor, that's not just clumsiness, it's a cosmic puzzle being reenacted in your living room. So tonight, as you rest, notice the pull beneath you. Feel how the earth keeps you close, how it anchors you in a world spinning at thousands of kilometers an hour. It may feel ordinary, but it's not. It's extraordinary in disguise, the magician's trick you've been living with all along. And tomorrow, when we keep wandering further, you'll see just how strange falling really is. Spoiler alert, you've been falling this entire time, and you didn't even notice. Have you ever thought about how strange falling really is? Not the, oops, I tripped over the coffee table kind of falling, but the cosmic version. Picture yourself stepping off the edge of the world, not plummeting into danger, but sliding into a never-ending motion. No ground rushing to stop you. That's falling in the universe's language, and it doesn't look like what we picture in our heads. Falling isn't always the dramatic scream down a cliff event cartoons have taught us. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's peace, it's surrender, it's a ride you're already on without realizing it. Let's warm up with a thought experiment. Imagine an elevator. Not the slow kind that stops at every floor and plays suspiciously outdated music, but one with the cables cut, plummeting down a shaft. Your stomach drops just imagining it. Inside that elevator, as horrifying as the scenario is, you would actually feel weightless. Why? Because everything inside the elevator is falling at the same rate. Your body, the elevator walls, even that cup of coffee you regret bringing along. They're all tumbling together. In that moment, relative to the elevator, you're floating. Einstein loved this idea so much, he called it his happiest thought. Not because he liked the idea of elevators failing, but because it revealed a truth. Falling isn't about being yanked down, it's about being in sync with the curve of space around you. Now let's take that elevator and blast it out into orbit. The International Space Station, for example, is falling around Earth all the time. Yes, falling. It's moving forward so quickly that as it falls, Earth curves away beneath it. It's like trying to throw a baseball so far that instead of hitting the ground, it keeps missing and circles the whole planet. That's orbiting in a nutshell. Astronauts up there aren't free from gravity. Earth's pull is still strong, about 90% as strong as it is on the ground. But since the station and everyone in it are falling together, they experience weightlessness. To them, it feels like silence, like freedom, like drifting in an endless dream. Falling, but without the crash. You might be wondering, if they're falling, why don't they smack into the ground? The trick is sideways speed. Picture a skateboarder looping inside one of those giant half-pipes. If they move just right, they don't crash into the bottom but ride smoothly around the curve. Earth is like the ultimate half-pipe, only the walls wrap into a sphere. The astronauts are riding it endlessly, never reaching the bottom. It's falling turned into choreography. This is where the word free fall sneaks in, and it doesn't mean chaos. Free fall is one of the most honest states you can be in. Imagine your body having no need to resist or push back, no pressure under your feet, no floor reminding you of your weight. Free fall is like the body's sigh of relief. It finally doesn't have to argue with the ground. That's why astronauts smile like kids at a trampoline park. Their bones and muscles are tasting a freedom our Earth-tied bodies rarely know. But there's another layer here, a more cinematic one. Falling is gravity's secret script. Think of a planet circling a star. To our eyes, it looks stable, permanent, almost lazy in its perfection. But what's really happening is falling. Earth is forever tumbling toward the sun, missing it by a hair's breadth thanks to its sideways speed. Falling isn't a mistake in this cosmic story, it's the plot itself. Without it, planets would drift into the dark like lost balloons. With it, they loop gracefully, locked in endless dances we mistake for stillness. Let's spice this up with a metaphor. Imagine running around a campfire while holding hands with someone. If you move fast enough, you don't fall straight into the flames, you circle endlessly, pulled inward but carried by your forward motion. That's us and the sun. We're holding hands with the laws of physics, circling the fire, always almost falling in but never letting go. Falling in this case is survival. Falling is the only reason we're here. And because the universe loves to show off, this isn't limited to planets. Moons fall around planets, comets fall around stars, galaxies fall toward each other. Even light, fast, untouchable light, falls when it passes near massive objects. Falling is so universal, it might as well be the cosmic default setting. If you're not falling, it's because something is getting in the way, like the ground under your feet. Remove the ground, and suddenly you realize you've been in free fall all along, riding Earth as it plunges through space. That's the part that bends the mind a little bit. Right now, as you listen, Earth itself is falling. It's hurtling around the sun at about 30 kilometers every second. Our entire solar system is falling around the center of the Milky Way. The Milky Way, not to be outdone, is falling toward the Andromeda galaxy for a dramatic meetup billions of years from now. Falling isn't the exception, it's the rule. The universe is basically an endless cascade of dominoes, each thing tumbling along invisible paths curved by everything else. And you, my friend, are part of the ride, whether you notice it or not. So why does falling feel so terrifying to us down here? Probably because on Earth it usually ends with a thud. Falling means gravity wins, and the floor is there to stop your adventure. But in the grander picture, falling is rarely about impact. It's about surrendering to the flow. Astronauts floating in orbit aren't screaming in terror, they're laughing as candy drifts past them in slow arcs. A comet streaking toward a star isn't panicking, it's performing its role in a ballet older than humanity. Falling, when you see it without the floor in the way, is graceful. Even the word fall has baggage. In our everyday life, to fall is to fail. Falling asleep, falling short, falling apart. It's all painted as negative. But in the cosmos, falling is how things hold together. Stars collapse under their own weight to spark fusion. Gas and dust fall inward to form planets. Galaxies fall into clusters that weave the structure of the universe. If falling didn't exist, neither would you, me, or the device you're holding right now. Falling, in truth, is creation disguised as motion. Let's go back to you for a second. Close your eyes and imagine the sensation of floating in water. The way your arms drift upward, your body suspended with no effort. That's the closest earthbound taste of free fall you can get. Scuba divers know it well, the sense of hanging between worlds, neither sinking nor rising. Free fall in space feels like that, but without the resistance of water. It's a silence so complete you realize you're always supported, always carried. Falling stops being something to fear and starts being something to marvel at. And it's worth marveling at because free fall has taught us more about the universe than almost anything else. When astronauts experience it, they become walking, well, floating experiments. Their bones thin, their muscles weaken, their fluids redistribute in strange ways. Free fall reveals how much of your biology is tuned to Earth's constant pull. It's like discovering your body has been playing an instrument all along, and now the strings are suddenly loosened. You hear the difference instantly. There's a philosophical angle here too. Maybe falling is the universe's way of reminding us we're never standing still. Even when you think you're planted in place, you're mid-flight on a world diving around a star. Falling is the hidden truth behind stability. It's like realizing your favorite chair is on wheels. You feel steady until you notice you're actually rolling. So let's leave the cartoon image of falling behind. It's not the coyote plummeting into the canyon. It's not even you dropping your phone and praying the screen survives. Falling in the universe's dictionary is harmony. It's motion without resistance. It's bodies following the curves of space, playing out an eternal game of tag. And here's the part that sets us up for where we're going next. If falling is just sliding along curved paths, then what's carving those paths? What's doing the bending? You already know the answer lurks in space itself, shaped by mass. But the details, oh, those are where the universe gets truly artistic. And that is where we're headed. For now, hold on to the thought that you're not standing still. You never were. You're always falling through silence, always tracing invisible arcs, always caught in gravity's hidden choreography. The floor beneath you is just the illusion. The truth is, the ride has already begun. If I ask you to imagine space, you'd probably picture a giant, empty black canvas speckled with stars, like the world's most dramatic wallpaper. Maybe you'd even think of space as a place, a backdrop where all the action happens. But here's the curveball. Space isn't just the stage, it's also part of the act. In fact, space is more like a trampoline, a bendable, stretchable, shape-shifting fabric that heavy objects press into. This isn't the kind of geometry you suffered through in high school with triangles and compasses. No, this is geometry on steroids, geometry that bends the very rules it's built on. Welcome to the invisible architecture that keeps the universe dancing in order. Let's rewind to the early 1900s. Einstein walks into the physics party, looks around at Newton's neat little formulas, and says, "This is great and all, but what if space isn't flat?" Cue the record scratch. Everyone stares. Flat space had been the standard for centuries, like thinking the Earth was flat, but on a more abstract level. Einstein's idea was outrageous, but brilliant. Mass, the stuff that makes up planets, stars, and you, isn't just sitting on space, it's pressing into it, bending it. And once bent, space itself tells everything else how to move. It's less like gravity is pulling you, and more like you're rolling downhill on a curved surface you can't see. Think of it like this. Place a bowling ball on a mattress. The mattress dips. Now roll a marble nearby. Instead of going in a straight line, the marble curves inward, spiraling toward the bowling ball. Did the bowling ball reach out and yank it in? Nope. The marble is just following the curve of the mattress. That's exactly how planets orbit stars and moons orbit planets. They're just marbles rolling on a cosmic mattress that happens to be invisible and four-dimensional. It's geometry, but geometry that moves you whether you like it or not. Here's where things get weird and wonderful. You might think, okay, fine, space curves around massive things. But so what? Well, that tiny detail explains almost everything big in the universe. The Earth doesn't circle the sun because it's tethered by some invisible string. It does so because it's falling along the sun's curved geometry. Light, which normally races in straight lines, bends when it passes near a star because the geometry itself is bent. Even time, which feels so solid as it ticks on your watch, slows down near heavier masses because time and space are glued together into one stretchy fabric. Geometry isn't just shapes anymore, it's reality itself wearing a spandex suit. And here's a kicker. You're not just walking through space, you're surfing on it. Every step you take is along this hidden contour, every breath you draw happening in a space that's subtly molded by Earth's bulk. You can't feel the slope because you're on it everywhere, like an ant crawling across a basketball. To the ant, the world looks flat, but if the ant could zoom out, it would see the roundness. You, my friend, are the ant, just with better shoes. Einstein called this grand idea general relativity, but you don't need to memorize that. What matters is this. Space tells matter how to move, and matter tells space how to bend. It's the ultimate feedback loop. If this were a rom-com, space and matter would be the couple who constantly shape each other's decisions, sometimes sweetly, sometimes dramatically, but always inseparable. And just like any good story, this hidden geometry has plot twists. Take black holes. These are places where the geometry curves so intensely that it's less like a dip in the mattress and more like ripping a hole straight through it. The curve becomes infinite, the slope so steep that not even light can escape. From the outside, it looks like a star collapsed. From the inside, well, we don't exactly know because the math breaks down. It's the geometry's way of saying, sorry, no spoilers here. Then there are gravitational lenses. Imagine peering through a wine glass. The glass warps the light, bending and distorting the scene behind it. Now replace the wine glass with a galaxy. Light from objects behind the galaxy gets curved by the galaxy's geometry, making rings, arcs, and strange duplicates in our telescopes. It's like space itself is playing with a funhouse mirror, except the mirror is billions of light years wide and entirely made of math. Without Einstein's geometry, astronomers would look at these warped images and assume the universe was drunk. It's tempting to ask why we can't see this geometry directly. The problem is that we're stuck inside it. It's like asking a goldfish to describe the shape of the bowl while still swimming in it. The fish can sense the water swirling, maybe notice distortions when pebbles are dropped in, but the bowl's true shape is only visible from outside. Unfortunately, there is no outside to our universe. We're stuck with clues, distortions, and experiments, piecing together the curves of space the way detectives piece together a mystery with fingerprints and shadows. Speaking of experiments, one of the most delightful confirmations of this hidden geometry came during a solar eclipse in 1919. Astronomers measured the position of stars near the edge of the sun. Normally, you'd never see those stars because the sun's brightness drowns them out. But during the eclipse, with the sun blocked, those stars became visible, and they appeared in the wrong places. Their light had been bent by the sun's geometry just as Einstein predicted. The universe had officially signed off on his wild idea. Imagine the smug grin Einstein must have worn after that. If Twitter had existed, he would have trended for weeks. Now, let's not pretend this is easy to grasp. We're creatures who like straight lines and flat surfaces. Curved spacetime is not something our instincts are built for. But the beauty of it is that you don't have to get it fully to feel its power. You can watch planets swing around stars, black holes distort light, and GPS satellites adjust their clocks because time bends differently in orbit. The fact that your phone's map works when you're trying to find the nearest taco stand is thanks to Einstein's geometry. If that's not practical physics, I don't know what is. Here's another way to picture it. Imagine you're in a massive dance hall. The floor looks flat, but it's secretly bouncy and warped. The heavier dancers press the floor down, making dips. The lighter dancers, like you, slide along those dips without realizing why the path curves the way it does. The whole room is choreographed, not by visible strings, but by the hidden shapes underfoot. That's the universe, a ballroom of curves, everyone moving to a rhythm set by mass and motion, even if no one sees the floor's hidden slopes. And just when you think you've wrapped your head around this, the universe reminds you it's even stranger, because this geometry doesn't just sit there, it ripples. When huge masses move suddenly, like two black holes colliding, they send out waves in the fabric of space itself. These are gravitational waves, and they stretch and squeeze space as they pass. Detectors on Earth can sense them, measuring distortions smaller than the width of a proton. That's like noticing a change in distance between Los Angeles and New York that's thinner than a human hair. It's ridiculous, it's mind-blowing, and it's proof that this hidden geometry is alive, dynamic, and constantly in motion. So here's where we stand. Space isn't empty. It isn't flat. It's a flexible stage that curves and sways under the weight of mass and energy. You don't fall because Earth pulls you. You fall because you're sliding down the slope Earth carves into space. Light doesn't just travel straight, it bends when space tells it to. Time itself ticks differently depending on how deep into this geometry you are. The rules of existence aren't drawn with rulers, they're sculpted in curves. And now comes the best part. If space can bend and ripple, then what else might it do? Could it twist in ways we haven't discovered? Could geometry itself be the key to understanding dark matter and dark energy, the great mysteries still taunting us from the cosmic wings? The universe has given us the blueprint of curves, but the map isn't finished. As you sit with that thought, imagine the floor beneath you isn't flat, but a slope you can't feel, carrying you along a hidden contour. Every move you make, every orbit traced by planets overhead, is written in this invisible script. It's geometry at its most rebellious, rewriting the rules you thought you knew. And just beyond this curve lies the next mystery, the illusion of weight, and why what feels so solid under your feet is less real than you think. If you're sitting right now, you probably feel your chair holding you up, maybe even digging into your back a little. If you're standing, your feet are pressed firmly into the floor. That sensation, that pressure pushing back, is what we call weight. It feels solid, dependable, the kind of thing you'd bet your last cookie on. But here's the cosmic prank. Weight isn't as real as it seems. It's an illusion, a side effect of your body colliding with the stubbornness of the ground. Take the ground away, and suddenly the sensation vanishes. Gravity is still there, but weight? Gone, like a magician's rabbit. Let's test this in your imagination. Suppose you're in an elevator. If the elevator cable snaps and you both plummet together, don't worry, this is the safe hypothetical kind of falling. Your stomach would lurch because for a brief moment, you'd feel weightless. You in the elevator would be falling at the same rate, so there's nothing pushing back against you. You haven't escaped gravity, it's still tugging at every atom in your body, but your sense of weight disappears. In that instant, weight is revealed for what it really is: resistance. Not a fundamental property, just your body bumping into something that refuses to move with you. Now take that idea and blast it into space. Astronauts circling Earth and the International Space Station look like they're floating in a place with no gravity. But if gravity were absent, the station wouldn't orbit at all. It would drift off like a lost balloon. What's actually happening is that the station and the astronauts inside are in a constant freefall together. They're moving sideways so fast that as they fall, Earth's surface curves away beneath them. Picture running downhill on a planet so round that the ground keeps dropping away at the same speed you're falling. You'd never hit bottom. That's orbit, an endless fall that never meets the ground. Weightless, not because gravity gave up, but because everything is falling in unison. So what is weight exactly? Technically, it's the force your body exerts when pressed against something that resists your fall. Right now, as you stand on Earth, the ground is preventing you from sinking toward the planet's core. Your muscles and bones press down and the ground pushes back. That push is the sensation you call weight. Strip away the floor, and suddenly there's nothing to press against. Without resistance, the concept of weight evaporates. It's like applause without hands. Impossible. Let's make this more fun. Imagine standing in your living room, holding a cup of coffee. On Earth, the coffee stays obediently inside the cup because gravity pulls it down and the bottom of the mug pushes back. But in orbit, that coffee doesn't stay put. It forms floating blobs, gliding through the air like mischievous jellyfish. Why? Because there's no down anymore. The coffee is falling with you at the same rate. To keep astronauts caffeinated, a matter of survival obviously, engineers had to design special straws and sealed pouches. Otherwise, the morning routine would look like a slow-motion food fight. This also explains why your body feels so different in orbit. Your bones and muscles evolved under constant pressure from Earth's pushback. Take away that daily workout against gravity, and suddenly your bones start losing calcium, your muscles shrink, and your heart doesn't need to pump as hard. Astronauts actually have to exercise for hours each day in orbit just to trick their bodies into thinking they're still dealing with weight. Imagine having to jog on a treadmill not because you want six-pack abs, but because you don't want your skeleton to forget it's supposed to support you. But the illusion of weight isn't just a curiosity for astronauts. It sneaks into your daily life in ways you may not notice. Ever been on a roller coaster when the car drops suddenly and you feel your stomach leap into your throat? That's momentary weightlessness. For a fraction of a second, you're falling faster than the seat beneath you can press back. Or think of that floating feeling when you dive into a swimming pool and sink before bobbing up. You haven't escaped gravity in the water, but the buoyant force is canceling most of your weight. It's Earth's way of giving you a little sneak preview of space life without the billion-dollar price tag. This raises a bigger, almost mischievous question. If weight is just resistance, does that mean it doesn't actually exist? In one sense, yes. It's not a property of you, it's a relationship between you and the ground. Like shadows, weight appears only under the right conditions. Move to the moon, and your weight shrinks to 1/6. On Jupiter, it balloons to more than double. You don't gain or lose mass. You're still the same you, but the pushback changes, and with it, the feeling of being heavy or light. You're basically a cosmic chameleon, your weight shifting with location, like an interplanetary mood ring. Take the Apollo astronauts. On the moon, they bounced around like kids on trampolines, kicking up dust with each step. They weren't suddenly made of feathers, their mass hadn't changed, but the moon's weaker resistance gave them that bounding, slow-motion grace. If they'd tried the same hops on Earth, they would have looked like clumsy joggers instead of lunar ballerinas. This is the difference between mass, the amount of matter you are, and weight, the pushback you feel in a given gravitational field. Mass is loyal, weight is fickle. Here's another curveball. If you jump into deep space, far from any planets, your mass still exists, but your weight disappears completely. With nothing resisting you, there's no push, no pressure, no sensation. You'd feel light as a feather, even though you're still carrying the exact same collection of bones, organs, and questionable snack choices. In that void, weight is gone not because you've changed, but because the stage beneath you has vanished. Now you might wonder, if weight is so conditional, why does it feel so real? That's because your body is wired to measure pressure. Your feet sense the ground, your muscles push against bones, your inner ear balances with the help of gravity. The brain stitches all these sensations together into one story. I weigh this much. It's a story so convincing that when it's suddenly interrupted, like in orbit or on a roller coaster, your whole system gets confused. Astronauts often spend their first days in space feeling dizzy or nauseous as their brain scrambles to rewrite the script. Imagine your body's software flashing a giant error message. Warning, down is missing. And yet, even stripped of weight, astronauts never lose gravity. They're still tethered to Earth by its pole, still moving in its curved path. Gravity is the constant hum in the background, always on, always there. Weight is just the volume knob, sometimes cranked up, sometimes dialed down to 0. The song doesn't stop playing, it just changes how loud you hear it. This difference between gravity and weight is not just philosophy, it has real-world consequences. Engineers have to factor it into rocket design. Medical researchers study it to understand bone health, and even your GPS relies on corrections that account for how satellites fall in orbit. The very fact that we can talk to a little device in our pockets and ask it to guide us to the nearest pizza place is tied to our understanding of weightlessness. If that doesn't make you smile, I don't know what will. So, next time you complain about your weight on Earth, remember you're not defined by that number on the scale. That's just the Earth refusing to let you fall further. Move to Mars and suddenly you're lighter. Travel to Saturn and you're heavier. Hop on a space station and poof, no weight at all. It's not you that changes, it's the resistance of the world around you. Weight is the world's opinion of you, not your truth. And maybe that's the deeper wonder here. What we feel as heavy and immovable is actually a fragile illusion, a trick of context. The sensation of weight is as slippery as soap in the shower. Hold it too tightly and it slides away. But understanding that frees you to see the universe differently. It reminds you that the rules we live by aren't always what they appear. Even something as solid as standing on the ground is just a negotiation with invisible forces. As we leave this chapter, let's imagine stepping into a place where weight never appears at all, where up and down blur, where your arms float beside you as if they've forgotten their own mass, where food dances in midair, and sleep means strapping yourself into a bag so you don't drift into a wall. Life without weight isn't just physics, it's a new way of existing. And from there, the next question looms. If weight is an illusion born of resistance, then what do we make of time, which bends and stretches in ways that feel even stranger? The story doesn't end with falling bodies. It carries us into the shifting river of time itself. If you've ever spun around in a swivel chair a little too fast and then staggered like a confused penguin when you stopped, you've had a taste of how tricky circles can be. The universe, though, is full of circles and ellipses, and unlike you after 3 spins, it manages to pull them off with incredible grace. Every planet in the solar system is moving, not because someone tied them to the sun with invisible ropes, but because space itself has written them into a long, patient dance. They glide around the sun not as captives yanked on strings, but as travelers tracing paths carved by balance. Let's start with Earth, the world beneath your feet, which is right now circling the sun at about 30 kilometers per second. That's fast enough to make a sports car cry with envy. Yet you don't feel the motion. There's no wind in your hair, no whooshing sound, no cosmic speedometer flashing. From your perspective, the ground is stable and your coffee cup sits safely on the table. Unless your cat knocks it over, but that's a different kind of gravitational problem. What's happening is a balancing act. Earth is forever trying to fall toward the sun, while its sideways motion keeps it from ever reaching the fiery surface. It's the perfect recipe for an endless loop. Think of throwing a ball. If you toss it lightly, it arcs and falls to the ground. Throw it harder, and it sails farther before coming down. In theory, if you could throw it fast enough, really fast, orbital speed fast, it would keep missing the ground because Earth curves away beneath it. Congratulations, you've just launched an orbit. Isaac Newton imagined this very thought experiment centuries ago, picturing a cannon on a high mountain firing a ball fast enough to circle Earth. He didn't have rockets handy, so his cannon fantasy had to do. That idea laid the groundwork for understanding that orbits are not about strings or tugs. They're about falling and moving sideways at just the right pace. But here's the fun part. Not all orbits are perfect circles. Most are ellipses, stretched out a little like a squashed hula hoop. Johannes Kepler, who didn't have Netflix but did have a lot of time to obsess over planetary data, figured this out by studying the path of Mars. He discovered that planets trace ellipses with the sun sitting off to one side, not in the middle. This was a revelation, like realizing the dance floor isn't perfectly round, but slightly oval. Planets still glide smoothly, but the distance between them and the sun changes, bringing them closer at one point and farther at another. This elliptical rhythm has consequences. When Earth is closer to the sun, it speeds up a little, like a skater pulling arms inward to spin faster. When it's farther away, it slows down, stretching the beat of the dance. Yet the overall cycle stays precise, repeating year after year with a loyalty that makes calendars possible. Without that dependable circuit, you'd never know when to plant crops, schedule vacations, or decide the best moment to release a summer blockbuster. Now let's zoom out beyond Earth. Picture the solar system as a vast cosmic ballroom. The sun is the spotlight in the center, and every planet is a dancer circling it at its own tempo. Mercury zips around like it drank too much espresso, finishing a lap in just 88 Earth days. Neptune, on the other hand, is the slow dancer in the corner, taking 165 years for a single orbit. Some of the dancers are small and nimble like Mars, while others are massive and commanding like Jupiter, whose gravitational influence is so strong that it doesn't just dance, it leads, tugging at asteroids and shaping entire regions of space. The beauty here is that no one is crashing into anyone else. These orbits aren't random, they're carefully balanced by the invisible rules of gravity and motion. Every world has its lane, its pace, its rhythm. It's less like bumper cars and more like a perfectly choreographed waltz where each partner knows the steps by heart. Even comets, those icy visitors from the far reaches of space, sweep in and out along elongated paths, joining the party for a while before vanishing again into the darkness, only to return decades or centuries later, like eccentric relatives who show up unannounced at family reunions. Of course, balance doesn't mean boring. Gravity is constantly negotiating with motion, and sometimes those negotiations get messy. Planets can nudge each other, moons can wobble in strange patterns, and asteroids can be kicked into new trajectories. But most of the time, the system holds steady, like a mobile hanging above a crib, each piece in motion, but the whole staying in harmony. That stability is why Earth has circled the sun for billions of years without spinning off into interstellar traffic. It's tempting to imagine the sun is the boss here, tugging planets into orbit with authority, but that picture is misleading. Planets aren't yanked, they're gliding along curves shaped by space itself. Einstein's insight was that mass bends the fabric of space, and orbits are simply objects following those bends. It's like rolling marbles across a trampoline where a heavy ball sits in the middle. The marbles don't need strings to circle, they're just following the slope of the surface. The sun doesn't hold planets hostage, it shapes the dance floor. And oh, what a floor it is! Invisible, silent, yet profoundly controlling. You don't see the curves of space with your eyes, but every orbit is proof they're there. Earth's path is the evidence. The moon's orbit around Earth is another. Even the satellites buzzing overhead, giving you GPS directions or letting you watch cat videos from across the globe, are tiny dancers on the same invisible stage. They move not because engines keep them pushing, but because they've been set into motion and now trace arcs dictated by geometry itself. If this all feels too abstract, let's make it personal. You, right now, are part of the dance. As Earth moves around the sun, you're carried along for the ride, covering millions of kilometers each year without lifting a finger. At the same time, the solar system itself is orbiting the center of the Milky Way galaxy, a much grander circle that takes about 225 million years to complete. That means during the time of the dinosaurs, Earth was in a completely different neighborhood of the galaxy. We've been circling not just the sun, but an even grander stage, like dancers inside a larger dance hall. You're moving through space in loops nested inside loops, a choreography so enormous that your mind can only grasp pieces of it at a time. Now here's a thought. What if this delicate choreography were to falter? What if Earth's speed changed dramatically? If we slowed down too much, the sun's curve would pull us inward, and we'd spiral into a fiery end. Too fast, and we'd slip away, cast out into the cold emptiness between stars. Luckily, Earth's pace is perfect, honed over eons. We're balanced at just the right tempo to keep circling safely. It's cosmic Goldilocks logic. Not too slow, not too fast, just right. And yet, even with all this stability, the story of orbits has its surprises. Moons can be captured, planets can migrate, entire systems can shift over vast stretches of time. Scientists think Jupiter once wandered inward before settling into its current orbit, rearranging the early solar system like a guest who shows up early to the party and moves all the furniture. Even now, orbital resonances, when two or more orbits sync up in repeating ratios, shape the paths of moons and asteroids. It's as if parts of the dance floor echo with repeating beats, guiding the steps of the dancers. All this leads to a larger realization. Orbits are not cages, they are expressions of freedom within the structure of space itself. A planet isn't chained to the sun, it's surfing a curve, balancing between motion and attraction. And because of that, the dance never really ends. Unless something massive intervenes, orbits go on indefinitely, carrying worlds through time with a rhythm that outlasts civilizations. So next time you see a simple diagram of planets circling the sun, don't picture it as mechanical clockwork. Think of it as choreography, an ancient slow dance written into the very structure of space. Think of Mercury whirling at breakneck speed, Neptune drifting with unhurried patience, and Earth spinning you around the floor once every year. You're not just a passenger on a rock, you're a dancer in a performance older than humanity, older than life itself. And as you let that thought sink in, ask yourself, if orbits are dances written into space, what happens when the stage itself moves, bends, or stretches with time? That question takes us to an even stranger idea, where gravity and time themselves become partners in a cosmic choreography. Imagine throwing a tennis ball into the sky and watching it arc back down to Earth. That part is normal. But now imagine tossing a beam of light the same way, only instead of shooting straight off into infinity, it too curves like a cosmic boomerang. Sounds like a magic trick, right? After all, light is supposed to be the untouchable stuff of the universe, weightless, fast, untamable. Yet here we are, discovering that even light, that dazzling sprinter of the cosmos, cannot resist the secret choreography of gravity. It's as if gravity whispered, "You think you're special because you travel at the speed limit of the universe? Think again, sunshine." To appreciate how shocking this is, you have to remember what people once thought about light. For centuries, light was treated like the rebel of physics, the thing that slipped through the rules that bind everything else. Rocks, apples, your shoe when it drops on your foot, those obey gravity. Light? No chance. It seemed too fast, too free. But Einstein came along in the early 20th century and changed the script. He didn't say, "Gravity pulls light like a rope." Instead, he said something more audacious. Space itself bends, and light just follows the curve. That's a bit like realizing the floor you're walking on is actually a treadmill twisting in directions you didn't notice, and your steps are simply going where the treadmill takes them. The idea was tested in one of the most cinematic experiments in science. In 1919, during a solar eclipse, astronomers pointed their telescopes at the stars near the darkened sun. If Einstein was right, the sun's mass should bend the paths of starlight, nudging their positions slightly out of place. And sure enough, when the eclipse shadow peeled back, the stars appeared shifted, as though the sun had tugged their beams into a new trajectory. That moment turned Einstein into a global icon, the first physicist to be treated like a celebrity. Headlines screamed, "Revolution in science!" And suddenly the man with wild hair became the face of relativity. So what does it mean for light to fall? Imagine rain. Each droplet seems destined to fall straight down, but if a gust of wind sweeps across, the rain arcs sideways, painting curves in the air. Light behaves similarly, except the wind isn't air. It's the warping of space around massive objects. Galaxies, black holes, and clusters of stars become sculptors, bending light into arcs and loops. Astronomers even have a name for this cosmic distortion: gravitational lensing. It's not just a pretty trick, it's a tool. Entire galaxies that are too faint or far away to be seen directly are revealed when their light is magnified by the gravity of another galaxy acting as a lens. Gravity, in this sense, becomes nature's telescope. Think about that for a second. Light, the very thing we depend on to see the universe, is being bent and magnified by the universe itself. It's like looking into a carnival mirror, except instead of making you look taller or squishier, it allows astronomers to peer billions of years into the past. The universe uses its own mass to play optometrist, adjusting our prescription and letting us glimpse hidden corners of creation. Without this bending of light, we'd be missing out on some of the most dramatic scenes: galaxies colliding, the first stars flickering on, the invisible scaffolding of dark matter. But if you want the real showstopper, nothing bends light like a black hole. These cosmic abysses are regions where space curves so sharply that light doesn't just arc. It can whirl in circles, trapped in an orbit of no return. Imagine a spotlight circling endlessly around a drain, its beam forever stuck on loop, never escaping. That's the strange theater black holes create, where light isn't the ruler of speed anymore, but a dancer caught in gravity's embrace. The fact that light can fall also changes how we think about universality. Gravity doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care whether you're a bowling ball, a feather, or a photon zipping along at nearly 300,000 kilometers per second. Everything must follow the same rules because the rules aren't about objects at all. They're about space itself. This is one of those ideas that sounds abstract until you let it sink in. If space can tell light how to move, then space is not a background. It's not the stage. It's a participant in the play, flexing and shaping the story as it unfolds. And here's the sneaky twist. When you look up at the night sky, every star you see is not where you think it is. Its light has bent, curved, and zigzagged along the contours of space before it reached your eyes. You're seeing not just the star itself, but the fingerprint of gravity along the way. It's like reading a message written in invisible ink that only the universe can reveal. You could say that every starlit night is a love letter co-authored by photons and gravity. Now, if all this makes you wonder whether space is secretly alive, shaping, bending, playing tricks, well, you're not alone. Scientists are still grappling with just how far this story goes. Could space itself ripple and tremble like a pond when disturbed? Spoiler, yes, that's gravitational waves. Could these ripples carry secrets from the most violent events in the cosmos? Another spoiler, absolutely. But that, my friend, is a tale we're saving for the next step of our adventure. Because if light can fall, Imagine what happens when space itself begins to ring. Picture standing barefoot on a beach, the sand cool beneath your feet, when suddenly the water starts creeping toward you as if it has decided to claim your toes. Then, just as stubbornly, it retreats, pulling shells, foam, and a half-buried flip-flop someone forgot last summer. Over and over, the ocean performs this endless inhale and exhale. It looks like the sea is alive, as if the earth itself is breathing in its sleep. But the lungs behind this vast rhythm aren't made of water. They're made of gravity. And the conductor of this slow-motion symphony is the moon. Now, you might be tempted to think the moon sits up there every night pulling the oceans upward like someone yanking at a bed sheet. That's the cartoon version, but the real story is much stranger and much more beautiful. What actually happens is that the moon's gravity pulls on the Earth, stretching the whole planet ever so slightly. Not just the oceans, but the solid ground beneath your sneakers, too. You don't notice the sidewalk bulging beneath you, but it does. The water, being free to slosh around, shows this stretch in the most dramatic way, rising into bulges we call tides. Here's the wild part. There aren't just tides on the side of Earth facing the moon, there's also a tide on the opposite side, as if the oceans got confused and decided to lean away at the same time. Imagine Earth as a squishy stress ball being tugged at both ends, producing two watery humps that chase the moon around as our planet spins. The result? Two high tides and two low tides every single day. If you've ever felt like the beach plays tug of war with your towel placement, now you know why. But wait, it's not just the moon in this drama. The sun, that fiery overlord, also joins the game, pulling on Earth with its own immense gravity. Normally, the sun's pull and the moon's pull don't perfectly line up, so the tides are moderate. But when the sun and moon align during a new moon or full moon, their gravitational teamwork creates especially dramatic tides called spring tides. No, they don't only happen in spring, and yes, the name has confused students for centuries. These are the look how far the ocean went tides, the ones that make coastal kids gasp and crabs scramble for cover. When the sun and moon are at right angles, however, their powers interfere, like bickering siblings, giving us neap tides, which are far more modest. The idea that the ocean breathes in sync with the moon sounds almost mythic, and in many cultures it was treated that way. Ancient sailors told stories of lunar spirits pulling the waters with invisible ropes, and even today beachgoers sense something mysterious in how the shoreline creeps and retreats. But this is no myth. You're literally watching gravity in action, visible on a planetary scale. And here's the kicker. It's not just the oceans that move, you do too. Your body, which is mostly water, is stretched ever so slightly by lunar tides. You won't feel your coffee sloshing inside you during a new moon, but the effect is there, faint but real, a reminder that you're stitched into the same cosmic fabric as the seas. Tides aren't just pretty patterns for surfers and shell collectors, they're powerhouses of change. The ceaseless stirring of the oceans helps regulate Earth's climate, moving warm water from the tropics toward the poles and carrying cooler water back again. Without this circulation, vast regions of our planet would be uninhabitable deserts or frozen wastelands. Tides carve coastlines, shape ecosystems, and nurture tidal pools where bizarre creatures thrive, half in, half out of the water. They've even been engines of myth and poetry, inspiring humans to measure time, plant crops, and write verses long before clocks existed. In a way, tides gave us rhythm before music did. But perhaps the most fascinating part of this story is how tides are secretly changing the Earth itself. As the moon pulls on our oceans, the friction between moving water and the sea floor acts like a cosmic brake, very slowly stealing energy from Earth's rotation. That means our days are getting longer, tiny fractions of a second every century. At the same time, that stolen energy is transferred to the moon, nudging it farther away. The moon is drifting from us about 4 centimeters per year. That's roughly the speed at which your nails grow. So the next time you clip your nails, imagine the moon drifting ever so slightly farther from Earth. The tides are like a long-distance handshake between Earth and its satellite, and every day the moon lets go just a little more. This retreat has profound consequences. Long ago, when the moon was closer, tides were far stronger. Picture monstrous waves surging inland, shaping coastlines in ways we can only guess at. In the far future, when the moon is much farther away, tides will weaken. The Earth's rotation will crawl, and the dance between Earth and moon will slow down to a languid waltz. If humans are still here, our descendants will measure time not by the ticking of a clock, but by the slow arching pull of oceans barely shifting under the lunar gaze. And if tides feel like something uniquely oceanic, think again. Astronomers have discovered that entire stars can be torn apart by tidal forces near black holes, stretched into ribbons of light by gravity so extreme it makes Earth's tides look like ripples in a puddle. Moons orbiting giant planets are squeezed and pulled by tidal forces, their insides heated until volcanoes erupt in spectacular fireworks. Gravity doesn't just move water, it kneads, twists, and reshapes worlds across the universe. So, the next time you watch a wave roll in and out, realize you're not just seeing water move. You're witnessing the Earth breathe with the pull of the moon, a rhythm older than life itself. You are part of that breathing, your body tugged in the same cosmic inhale and exhale. And while the sea will keep rising and falling long after we're gone, this slow pulse connects us to the sky, to the moon, and to the invisible architecture of gravity. But tides aren't only one verse in gravity's endless song. If water can move to this rhythm, what happens when space itself begins to sway and ripple? That's where our journey is heading, toward the soundless symphony of gravitational waves, disturbances that make the very fabric of the universe tremble. And trust me, that's a performance you'll want front row seats for. Imagine trying to have a conversation with someone who only replies once every billion years. That's gravity for you. It doesn't yell, it doesn't demand attention, it just waits and waits. And then, without you realizing it, everything around you has rearranged itself. Galaxies swirl, stars ignite, planets line up in neat orbits, and you're left wondering, when did all this happen? Gravity's voice is slow, like the world's most patient storyteller, speaking in paragraphs that take eons to finish. Think about how impatient we humans are. We tap our fingers while waiting for the microwave to reheat leftovers. We groan at buffering videos, and we curse the traffic light that won't turn green. Meanwhile, gravity has been crafting galaxies since before there were even galaxies to craft, calmly pulling bits of dust and gas together in what amounts to the universe's longest-running art project. Every star you've ever wished on began as a tiny clump of floating debris that gravity coaxed closer and closer until pressure and heat lit it into a nuclear bonfire. Talk about playing the long game. To picture how gravity works over time, imagine trying to herd cats. At first, they scatter in every direction, climbing curtains and ignoring you. But if you had infinite patience, and some invisible influence that ever so slightly nudged each cat toward the center of the room, eventually, after a mind-bendingly long time, you'd end up with a giant, purring, slightly annoyed cat ball. That's what happened with clouds of hydrogen in the early universe. They drifted, they spread, they wandered, and gravity whispered, "Closer, closer," until stars were born. And it doesn't stop with stars. Once stars ignite, gravity keeps weaving its net, pulling them into clusters, arranging them into spiral galaxies, sculpting vast cosmic webs that stretch across the observable universe. If you could zoom all the way out, far beyond what your eyes or even telescopes could see, you'd find that galaxies are not scattered randomly. They form filaments, like an enormous three-dimensional spider web, with knots where clusters of galaxies huddle together. This isn't just beautiful, it's gravity organizing the universe on scales so large they make your hometown look like a crumb on a kitchen counter. The wild thing is that all this structure comes from the faintest nudges, a little more matter here, a little less there, and over billions of years, gravity amplifies those differences into stars, galaxies, and black holes. Imagine starting with a blank piece of paper, then sprinkling a few dots of ink almost at random. If you wait long enough, like, say, the age of the universe, those dots will bloom into intricate drawings, not because anyone sketched them, but because gravity never loses its focus. Tiny beginnings become cosmic masterpieces. It's tempting to think of gravity as some cosmic builder, always adding, always shaping. But it's also a collector of endings. Stars that burn out and collapse become black holes, the ultimate gravity wells. Dead stars that puff out into white dwarfs or neutron stars are still trapped in the gravitational embrace of their galaxy. Gravity keeps everything, even ashes and remnants, woven into its design. Nothing escapes the slow whisper, not even the silence of things long gone. And here's the part that makes your jaw drop. This patient sculptor of the cosmos is the same force that drops your car keys when you fumble them. The same tug that pulls galaxies into clusters is the same tug making your coffee cup stay on the table instead of drifting into orbit around your ceiling fan. It's like learning that the quiet neighbor who waters their plants every morning is also secretly running the entire power grid for your city. The scale changes, but the law remains the same. There's something oddly comforting about that. While our lives are measured in years or decades, gravity plays a game that takes billions of years per move. Stars rise, shine, and collapse, galaxies collide and merge, and all the while, gravity is the metronome ticking at a pace so steady you'd never notice it if you weren't paying attention. When you feel insignificant looking up at the stars, remember, you're part of that same slow process. The atoms in your body were stitched together by stars that gravity built. You are the byproduct of cosmic patience. Now, let's stretch our imagination even further. What happens when two galaxies meet? You might picture a fiery crash, but the truth is more like a slow dance. Stars mostly pass by each other, space is vast after all, but gravity reshapes the galaxies, pulling them into elongated forms, tossing some stars into new paths, and mixing gas clouds that trigger fresh waves of starbirth. The Milky Way itself is headed for such a meeting with the Andromeda Galaxy in about 4 billion years. Don't worry, there's no cosmic traffic jam coming to smash Earth like a bug on the windshield, but the night sky will transform. Over eons, the familiar band of the Milky Way will blur and bend, eventually merging into a new, larger galaxy. Gravity is already whispering that future into existence. This slowness also makes you realize just how temporary our sense of permanence is. The continents shift, mountains erode, oceans rise and fall, and through it all, gravity just keeps rearranging things on its own schedule. It has no deadlines, no finish line. The universe is in a state of perpetual becoming, and gravity is the choreographer. You, sitting here listening to these words, are inside that choreography, part of the same cosmic dance that's been unfolding since the first sparks of light. And it's not just out there in space, it's in time itself. The very expansion of the universe is tugged at by gravity, pulling back against the outward rush of everything. Galaxies try to fly apart, and gravity says, "Not so fast." The balance between expansion and collapse is one of the great questions of cosmology. Will gravity eventually pull everything back together in a big crunch? Or will expansion outrun it, leaving galaxies drifting apart until even the nearest stars vanish from view? The jury's out, but the whisper of gravity continues to influence the verdict, second by second, millennium by millennium. So the next time you feel rushed, late for work, or stuck in a line that feels endless, consider this. You're part of a universe where the most powerful force in shaping structure moves at a pace slower than paint drying in winter. If patience is a virtue, then gravity is the most virtuous force of all. And maybe, just maybe, you can borrow a bit of that patience, knowing that you're tied to the same rhythm that builds galaxies from dust. But if gravity's slow whisper builds things across time, what happens when that whisper becomes a ripple, a shudder that travels across space itself? That's where we're going next. The mysterious, invisible waves that make the universe tremble like a cosmic drum. Imagine a place where the rules you've trusted your whole life, like up, down, before, after, suddenly stop working, like a video game glitching in spectacular fashion. Now imagine that glitch not as a mistake, but as one of the universe's most powerful features. That's a black hole. These are the spots in space where gravity, usually a subtle sculptor shaping stars and planets over eons, decides to go all in and swallow everything, including the very stage on which physics performs. It's like if gravity were that one friend at dinner who insists on taking everyone's fries, except instead of fries, it's matter, light, and the fabric of reality itself. To even begin to understand black holes, we have to rewind. Picture a massive star nearing the end of its life. It's been burning through its nuclear fuel like a cosmic furnace, balancing outward pressure from all that fiery fusion against the inward pull of gravity. Eventually, though, it runs out of fuel, like a car sputtering to a stop on the side of a galactic highway. Without fusion pushing back, gravity wins, pulling the star's matter inward. The collapse doesn't stop until the star's heart caves in on itself, compressing all its mass into an impossibly small space. That's the birth of a black hole, a celestial implosion so thorough that the result is a region where gravity has turned itself up to maximum, trapping even light in its grip. The boundary around this region is called the event horizon. Crossing it is like walking through a cosmic one-way door. You can go in, but you're never coming out. Not you, not your spaceship, not even your text messages. Light, which usually zips around the universe showing off its speed, suddenly gets pulled in like a marathon runner trying to sprint up a wall made of syrup. Once light itself can't escape, you understand why black holes look like holes, regions of absolute darkness surrounded by swirling chaos. And oh, that swirling chaos. Matter that falls toward a black hole doesn't just plop straight in, it spirals, heating up as it goes, forming what's called an accretion disk. Imagine space's version of water circling a drain, but the drain is so hungry it turns the water into plasma hot enough to make the surface of the sun look like a candle flame. This disk glows, screaming across the universe in X-rays and other high-energy radiation, announcing the black hole's invisible presence like a neon sign that says, "Danger, do not enter. Also, I'm awesome." Here's the wild part. Black holes are not just cosmic vacuum cleaners mindlessly slurping things up. They also shape the very galaxies around them. At the center of nearly every large galaxy, including our own Milky Way, lurks a supermassive black hole, millions or even billions of times heavier than our Sun. Think about that. Something with the mass of billions of stars is packed into a single point, hiding behind an event horizon smaller than the orbit of our solar system. And somehow, instead of destroying everything, it helps organize the swirling chaos of stars around it, like the stern but oddly effective principle keeping the galactic schoolyard in order. But black holes don't just consume, they also create drama. The energy from the matter spiraling into them can shoot out colossal jets of particles moving at nearly the speed of light, stretching across thousands of light years. These jets are so massive that if one were aimed at Earth, it would basically ruin your weekend, your year, and your evolutionary future. Thankfully, our galaxy's black hole is more of a quiet operator, preferring to sip slowly rather than hurling death beams through space. And then there's the mind-melting part. Time itself behaves differently around a black hole. The closer you get, the more time slows compared to someone farther away. This isn't sci-fi. Astronauts hanging out near a black hole's edge would experience minutes while years passed for everyone else. In a way, black holes are natural time machines, although they're the kind you wouldn't actually want to ride unless your bucket list includes become infinite spaghetti. Which brings us to spaghettification, a term that sounds like a bad pasta recipe, but describes the very real fate of anything falling in. Gravity stretches you vertically while squeezing you horizontally until you're basically cosmic linguine. Delicious for physics, not so much for you. Stephen Hawking, the brilliant mind who spent much of his life thinking about these monsters, discovered something shocking. Black holes aren't completely black. They can slowly leak radiation, now known as Hawking radiation, and over mind-bending stretches of time, they can evaporate entirely. Imagine the universe's most terrifying trap slowly fizzing away like a soda left open on the counter. This revelation means black holes aren't eternal prisons after all, but temporary features in a universe that doesn't like anything to last forever. Yet for all we know, the true heart of a black hole remains hidden. What happens beyond the event horizon is one of science's great mysteries. Do the laws of physics collapse completely? Is there a bridge to another universe hiding in there like a cosmic secret passage? Or is it simply a final stop where the math gives up and says, "Look, you're on your own now"? Nobody knows. Black holes are like that locked room in a haunted mansion, the one you really want to peek inside, but you're pretty sure if you do, you'll regret it. And still, despite their terrifying reputation, black holes are not villains. They're chapters in the universe's story, places where gravity's slow whisper turns into a roar. They remind us that the cosmos isn't just vast, it's strange, unpredictable, and sometimes downright theatrical. They're proof that the universe doesn't just build, it folds, collapses, and rewrites its own rules in the most dramatic ways possible. So the next time you look up at the night sky and see the sweep of the Milky Way, know that at its very center lies a black hole, holding court, unseen but undeniably there. It's like the ultimate introvert, shaping the galaxy while refusing to show its face. And if you're wondering what happens after black holes, what could possibly come next in the universe's story, well, let's just say the cosmos still has a few surprises left, and they're stranger than even the most twisted plot lines Hollywood could dream up. Because when gravity devours itself, the universe doesn't end. It sets the stage for the next act. And that act, as you'll see, might just rewrite everything we thought we knew about beginnings and endings. Have you ever wondered what the universe sounds like? Not the whoosh of rockets or the ping of satellite beacons, but the sound the universe itself makes as it goes about its business. If you're imagining something like a cosmic jazz band with saxophones made of stardust, you're not entirely wrong. But the truth is even weirder. The universe doesn't play music through air molecules the way we do with our ears. Instead, it hums through space-time itself. Think of the cosmos as a massive drum skin stretched across infinity, and when something enormous happens, like two black holes colliding, it sends ripples racing across that drum. These ripples are gravitational waves, the universe's version of a heartbeat, vibrating not in sound, but in reality itself. The idea of ripples in space-time sounds like a science fiction script someone pitched after staying up way too late on caffeine, but Einstein predicted them over a century ago. According to his theory of general relativity, space and time aren't separate threads, they're woven together into a fabric. And like any fabric, when you tug or shove something massive across it, you stretch and warp it. Imagine tossing a bowling ball onto a trampoline. The trampoline dips, and if you give that ball a push, the whole surface wiggles with waves radiating outward. Now replace the bowling ball with colliding black holes and the trampoline with the universe, and you've got yourself the most dramatic ripple effect imaginable. For decades, gravitational waves existed only on chalkboards and in mathematicians' imaginations. They were like whispered rumors of the cosmos, a beautiful theory, but unproven. Scientists suspected they were out there, but they were so faint, so subtle, that detecting them felt like trying to notice the sway of your living room carpet when an ant walks across it. Still, physics thrives on impossible dreams, and eventually humanity built something bold enough to try. LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. Picture two giant L-shaped detectors with laser beams running down arms 4 kilometers long, measuring shifts smaller than a fraction of a proton. Yes, a proton, the tiny particle that makes up atoms. That's like trying to detect a change in distance smaller than the width of a hair, except you're measuring it between Louisiana and Washington state. Then in 2015, it happened. A signal rolled in, the faint tremor of two black holes colliding more than 1 billion light-years away. Space-time itself shivered, and for the first time in history, humanity listened in on the universe's private symphony. The sound? A rising chirp, like a cosmic bird call swooping upward as the black holes spiraled together before merging into one. In that instant, the energy released was greater than all the stars in the observable universe shining together. Think about that. All the suns, all the galaxies, all the radiant fury of the cosmos, and still these colliding black holes outshined them for a brief, ferocious heartbeat. Gravitational waves do something extraordinary. They give us a new sense. For millennia, astronomy was a visual art. We built telescopes to capture light, radio dishes to listen to frequencies, and satellites to spot invisible X-rays. But with gravitational waves, we suddenly gained hearing. It's as if we've been watching the universe through a silent movie, and now the soundtrack has been switched on. Entire chapters of cosmic drama that were invisible to light are now thundering into our detectors. Mergers of black holes, collisions of neutron stars, maybe even echoes from the earliest moments after the Big Bang. Speaking of neutron stars, those collisions are worth pausing on. Imagine two remnants of dead stars, each packed so densely that a teaspoon of their matter weighs as much as a mountain. When they slam together, not only do they send out gravitational waves, but they also forge heavy elements, gold, platinum, uranium, the very stuff in your jewelry, electronics, and possibly your dental fillings. Yes, the ring on your finger may have been born in the catastrophic smash of neutron stars, its atoms scattered across space before finding their way into the solar system, and eventually into you. You're literally wearing the aftermath of cosmic violence accessorized for elegance. Gravitational waves are also storytellers, carrying information from places light can't escape. Black holes don't radiate in any ordinary way. Remember, they're infamous for hiding everything behind their event horizons. But when they collide, the ripple they make in space-time spills their secrets. By listening, scientists can measure their masses, their spins, and even test the very fabric of Einstein's theory. So far, general relativity has passed with flying colors, like a student who aces every exam no matter how tricky the questions get. But you can't help but wonder if someday gravitational waves reveal something unexpected, a flaw in Einstein's great blueprint, or some new physics lurking at the edges, waiting to be discovered. And here's a thought that might make you sit back for a second. Gravitational waves never stop. Once created, they travel endlessly, carrying the memory of cosmic events across billions of years and billions of light years. That means the waves LIGO detected in 2015 were not fresh news. They were a billion-year-old broadcast, a galactic delayed transmission finally reaching Earth after eons of travel. The universe is like a radio station that never shuts off. We're just now tuning in to its oldest, deepest signals. Of course, humans being humans, we can't just listen, we want to map, to catalog, to turn these faint ripples into a grand symphony of understanding. Future observatories are already on the way. Space-based detectors like LISA, with arms millions of kilometers long, will open up even a deeper range of cosmic notes, from monstrous black holes at the centers of galaxies to the subtle background hum of the early universe itself. One day we might even listen to the universe's first heartbeat, the ripples created in the instant after the Big Bang. Imagine that, catching the sound of creation's opening chord. But here's the thing that gets me. Gravitational waves remind us that the universe is never still. Even in its vastness, where galaxies seem frozen in place and stars burn for billions of years, underneath it all, there's motion, collision, rhythm. It's as though the universe itself is alive, pulsing, stretching, breathing in a way that transcends anything we can see with our eyes. Every wave we catch is proof that existence itself has texture, that reality can ripple like water under the moon. So the next time you stand outside under the stars, think about this. As you breathe in and out, somewhere out there, two enormous objects may be crashing together, sending out ripples that are, at this very moment, stretching and squeezing the space around you ever so slightly. You'll never feel it, but you're a participant in the cosmic dance, carried on ways older than humanity. And as we keep listening, with ever better ears, who knows what symphonies we'll uncover? Maybe one day the ripples will reveal not just collisions and cataclysms, but secrets about the deepest mysteries of time, space, and the universe itself. Because if gravity can make waves, then perhaps the cosmos isn't silent after all. It's been playing its heartbeat the whole time. We're just finally tuning in to its oldest, deepest signals. And as for what comes after that heartbeat, well, let's just say the universe has more verses left in its song, and the next one may change everything you thought you knew about the silence of space. If you've ever flopped onto a couch at the end of a long day and felt your body sigh with relief, you've already had a personal conversation with gravity. It wasn't just the cushion hugging you, it was gravity holding a hand on your shoulder, reminding you that it has been pulling on you every single second since you were born. We tend to think of gravity as something cosmic, something that moves planets and swirls galaxies. But here's the twist. It lives in you, too. It's shaping your body, influencing your blood, sculpting your bones, and even whispering balance into your brain. In fact, without gravity tugging at your insides day after day, you wouldn't even be you in the way you know yourself now. Start with your blood. Every heartbeat is like a little pump party, pushing red rivers through your veins. But your heart doesn't do the job alone. It's working with gravity. When you're standing, blood tends to drift downward, pooling in your legs. Your body has valves in your veins that snap shut like tiny trap doors to stop that blood from just sinking endlessly toward your toes. Without them, every time you stood up, you'd faint faster than a fainting goat in a YouTube compilation. This constant tug-of-war between your circulation system and gravity is so normal you never think about it. But if you've ever stood up too fast and felt dizzy, that's gravity flexing its muscles. Your brain was momentarily starved of blood because gravity was winning the tug-of-war for a few seconds. Now shift to your bones. They're not just scaffolding, they're storytellers, carrying the history of every step you've taken under Earth's pull. Gravity is like an invisible personal trainer, always putting just enough weight on you to keep your skeleton strong. The pressure of carrying your own body around tells your bones, stay sturdy, we've got work to do. That's why astronauts lose bone density in space. In zero gravity, bones are basically unemployed. No weight to carry, no pressure to resist. They weaken fast, as though your skeleton got the memo that gym class was permanently canceled. It's so dramatic that astronauts can lose 1 to 2% of their bone mass per month up there. That's why they're stuck exercising on space treadmills like reluctant marathoners, trying to trick their bones into remembering gravity still matters. Your spine tells another story. Ever notice that you're taller in the morning than at night? Gravity is the reason. During the day, it compresses the spongy discs between your vertebrae, like squishing a stack of pancakes under a heavy syrup bottle. By bedtime, you've literally shrunk, about half an inch for most people. When you lie down, the discs relax and absorb fluid again, plumping you back up so you wake taller. It's like your body has a daily shrinking and expanding superpower, though not the kind Marvel would make a movie about. Even your sense of balance is built on gravity. Inside your inner ear are tiny fluid-filled canals and little crystals. Yes, you have crystals in your head, though not the kind you buy at a gift shop with positive vibes. These are otoliths, tiny grains of calcium carbonate that shift whenever you tilt or move. As they slide, they tug on hair-like sensors which tell your brain where down is. Gravity is the invisible stagehand giving direction to the play of your movements. Without it, your sense of orientation collapses. That's why astronauts get space sickness. Without gravity pulling on those crystals, the inner ear gets confused, sending mixed signals to the brain. Suddenly, up feels like down, and your stomach starts filing complaints. And speaking of stomachs, gravity is busy there too. Your digestive system relies on coordinated muscular waves, but gravity gives food a helpful nudge along the way. Try swallowing upside down, and you'll realize those muscles can work against gravity, but it's less comfortable, like trying to push a shopping cart uphill. Gravity is the quiet co-pilot of every meal, making sure dinner doesn't linger too long at the starting line. Even your face has its little partnership with gravity. Think about tears. They don't just evaporate into nothing, they slide down your cheeks because gravity tugs them earthward. If you've ever cried flat on your back, you know the confusion. Tears pool weirdly into your ears instead of rolling dramatically down your face like in the movies. Astronauts don't even get that. They cry in space and the tears just cling in shimmering blobs stuck to their eyes like sticky little water balloons. The universe has no patience for dramatic weeping scenes. But gravity isn't only about weight and pulling, it's also about comfort. That sense of being anchored, of knowing which way is down, is grounding in more ways than one. Imagine if gravity turned off for just a few minutes. Your hairbrush would float, your coffee would drift like a sticky brown cloud, and you'd find yourself doing awkward swimming motions midair just to chase after your breakfast. Your body would panic because so much of its design assumes that down is always waiting. From the soles of your feet to the balance centers in your brain, gravity is the baseline your whole biology is tuned to. In fact, if you want to really appreciate gravity's role inside you, look at what happens when it's gone. Astronauts don't just lose bone density, their muscles shrink too. Your muscles are sculpted by resisting gravity every time you walk, stand, or lift. Remove that, and suddenly the most basic movements no longer need strength, so the muscles decide to downsize. Blood redistributes toward the chest and head, puffing up faces into what astronauts jokingly call moon face. Without gravity pulling fluids down into your legs, your body reshuffles its plumbing like a landlord who doesn't really care about the tenants. Even your heart changes shape in space. It becomes more spherical because it no longer has to pump against gravity as forcefully. When astronauts return to Earth, gravity hits like a demanding coach again, and their bodies need time to retrain. Standing up feels exhausting, and sometimes they even faint. All of which brings us back to you sitting here right now. The way you stand, the way your spine curves, the way blood finds your toes, the way your ears whisper balance into your brain, gravity is in every corner of you. It isn't just an outside force pulling planets into orbit or moons into dance. It's the sculptor inside your skin, the invisible partner keeping your body in shape and your mind oriented. You don't just live under gravity, you live with it, in it, through it. And maybe that's the strangest truth of all. We often think of gravity as the universe's stage, the background force making galaxies and stars possible. But it's also personal. It's shaping the rhythm of your heartbeat, the height you wake up at, even the way you stumble when you stand too fast. It's cosmic and intimate at the same time, which makes you wonder, if gravity can weave itself so seamlessly into our bodies, what other invisible threads might be holding us to the universe? The next chapter waits with that question hanging in the air, tugging you forward, the way gravity always does. Picture this. You drop your pen on Earth and it falls to the floor. No drama, no surprises. Now picture dropping that same pen on the International Space Station. Spoiler alert, it doesn't fall. It just floats there, hanging in midair like a magician's trick, making you feel like gravity has suddenly gone on vacation. This isn't some cosmic glitch. It's microgravity, the strange in-between world where things seem weightless, but gravity never truly leaves the room. The term microgravity sounds like something out of a futuristic shampoo commercial, but all it means is that gravity is still around, just weaker in effect, because everything is falling together at the same speed. The pen, the astronaut, the entire space station, they're all caught in an endless fall around Earth. So from inside, it feels like weight has vanished. If you've ever jumped on a trampoline and felt that momentary lift, that second when your stomach does a tiny somersault before you slam back down, that's your brief taste of microgravity. Astronauts live in that moment constantly. The difference is that instead of bouncing on springs in a backyard, they're hurtling around Earth at about 17,500 miles per hour. That speed makes their fall miss the ground entirely, looping endlessly as orbit, and in that endless fall, they float like dandelion seeds caught in a slow-motion breeze. But floating around like Peter Pan isn't all fun and Instagram-worthy space selfies. Microgravity messes with your body in ways you'd never expect. On Earth, your bones are under constant pressure because they're always holding you up. In space, that pressure is gone. Bones lose density at a shocking rate, so much so that an astronaut's skeleton can become weaker in just months. It's as if your bones get the message, "Oh, no weight to carry anymore? Cool, let's slack off." Muscles join the rebellion too. They shrink because they no longer need to push against Earth's pull. Imagine getting ripped from daily squats, then suddenly living in a world where squats are pointless. Your thighs and calves would wave goodbye to all that hard-earned strength. That's why astronauts spend hours each day strapped to exercise machines in space. It looks awkward, running while tethered to a treadmill with bungee cords, but without it, they'd return to Earth with legs as unprepared as noodles fresh from the pot. Your heart doesn't escape the strangeness either. On Earth, it's pumping hard to push blood against gravity, making sure your brain gets what it needs. In space, without that resistance, your heart slacks off and reshapes itself, becoming rounder and less efficient. Blood itself shifts too, drifting upward into the chest and face. That's why astronauts often look a little puffy in space photos. Gravity normally pulls fluid down into your legs. Without that tug, your body ends up top-heavy. The result? Puffy cheeks, swollen sinuses, and sometimes headaches. Even your taste buds get involved. Many astronauts say their food tastes bland up there. Without normal fluid distribution, nasal passages are congested, like you've got a permanent cold. So they crave spicy food, anything to kick the flavor back in. Imagine packing hot sauce for a trip into orbit. Not exactly what you'd expect on a cosmic packing list. Then there's the mind. Floating in microgravity rewires how your brain handles balance and motion. Remember those crystals in your inner ear that usually tell you which way is up and down? In orbit, they're useless. Your brain has to reprogram itself, relying more on vision to figure out your orientation. That's why astronauts sometimes get motion sickness at first, tumbling through their space station like kids learning to walk. Over time, the brain adjusts, but when they come home, Earth feels foreign again. Suddenly, up and down return, and the inner ear throws a tantrum. Standing can feel exhausting. Walking a straight line becomes an Olympic challenge. It's like gravity reintroduces itself with the subtlety of a hammer. Oh, you forgot about me? Well, here I am. Even sleep isn't normal in microgravity. Astronauts don't have beds in the traditional sense. They zip themselves into sleeping bags that are velcroed to the wall so they don't drift around the cabin like floating burritos. And here's a fun thought. Without gravity pressing on your body, there's no natural signal telling you which way is down, so your sense of rest is altered. Sleep can feel strange, as though your body has forgotten its usual cues for relaxation. Some astronauts describe it as the most freeing nap of their lives. Others as confusing, like trying to snooze on a roller coaster that never ends. All these ships highlight something we often forget. Gravity isn't just an external force pulling planets and moons. It's woven into the blueprint of your body. It shapes your skeleton, muscles, circulation, balance, everything. When it disappears, even partly, you discover how much of your identity leans on its steady hand. And when astronauts return, they have to relearn Earth. Every step feels heavier, every heartbeat works harder, every breath adjusts to the weight of being home again. It's like living in two versions of reality and realizing one is not guaranteed. That's the gift hidden in the strangeness of microgravity. It shows us how much we take for granted, how our bodies are tuned like instruments to Earth's pull, and it leaves you with a question humming in your mind. If gravity is so fundamental to who we are here, what happens to life, human or otherwise, when it grows up under different rules, in other worlds, with weaker or stronger pulls? That mystery is waiting, just over the horizon, tugging at us, like gravity itself. Have you ever stared at a spider web in the morning, the strands catching the light like threads of glass, and thought, wow, nature really nailed its architecture game? Now, take that image and blow it up to cosmic proportions. Instead of silk, imagine threads spun from gravity itself. Instead of insects caught in the net, picture galaxies, billions of stars bundled together, locked into place. That, in short, is the great cosmic web, the largest pattern the universe has ever embroidered. It's so vast that if you could zoom all the way out, far beyond anything a telescope could currently show, you'd see the universe not as a random scatter of galaxies, but as a woven masterpiece, filaments of light stretching across unfathomable distances. Here's the wild part. When astronomers first mapped out galaxies, they expected them to be scattered like sprinkles on a cake, random, tasty chaos. But what they found looked more like a 3D lacework. Galaxies clump into clusters, and those clusters are connected by enormous strands with massive voids in between. Think of it as a cosmic cityscape, skyscrapers of stars grouped together, highways of filaments linking them, and vast stretches of open countryside that are eerily empty. And what's the city planner behind this? Gravity, pulling on matter over billions of years, stretching and shaping the universe into this interconnected web. So the universe on the grandest scale isn't messy at all. It's structured, like some colossal art project made from invisible threads. Now, here's where it gets even cooler. The cosmic web is not just made from galaxies and stars. The majority of it is dark matter, the mysterious stuff that doesn't emit light or energy, but still pulls on everything else with its gravity. Picture dark matter as the scaffolding of the universe, the framework on which visible matter hangs. If you could see only the galaxies, you'd be looking at glowing beads strung along invisible wires. Those wires, the dark matter filaments, are the real backbone of the cosmic web. Astronomers can't see them directly, but they can map their presence by watching how galaxies move and how light bends as it travels past. It's like noticing the wind, not by seeing it, but by watching leaves dance through the air. To give you a sense of scale, one filament of the cosmic web can stretch hundreds of millions of light-years long. That's such an absurd number that your brain might try to tap out. So, let's put it this way. If you set off driving your car along a filament at highway speed, you wouldn't even get halfway across before the sun burned out and Earth turned into a cold, lifeless rock. These filaments are the ultimate long roads, cosmic interstates with galaxies for pit stops. And about those empty spaces, the voids between the filaments, these regions aren't just mildly less busy, they're staggeringly empty. If the cosmic web is like bread fresh from the oven, then the voids are the air pockets, vast bubbles where hardly anything resides. Galaxies avoid them like awkward silences at a party, preferring the safety of the web's strands. Yet even voids play their role, shaping the overall geometry of the universe, carving space into an intricate balance of presence and absence. This picture of the universe wasn't easy to piece together. In the 1980s and 90s, astronomers began making giant maps of galaxies, measuring their positions like plotting stars on a cosmic treasure map. At first, the pattern seemed subtle, but as the data piled up, the web emerged. Glowing filaments connecting nodes of clustered galaxies. It was like switching on a blacklight in a dark room and suddenly seeing invisible ink glowing across the walls. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The universe is not chaos, it's choreography. Of course, the cosmic web isn't static. It's still evolving. Gravity keeps tugging, pulling galaxies closer together, thickening the filaments, deepening the voids. Over time, the web is tightening, like dough rising and stretching under its own yeast-driven energy. The expansion of the universe, driven by dark energy, complicates things, pulling everything apart on the largest scales, even as gravity pulls structures together on smaller ones. It's a cosmic tug-of-war, one force trying to weave things closer, the other pulling the threads apart. Somehow, both sides are winning, and the result is this endlessly fascinating structure. But what does it mean for you, sitting here on your small blue planet tucked into the suburbs of one filament? It means you are part of a larger pattern, a bead of light threaded into a vast tapestry. Our Milky Way galaxy is not just floating alone in space, it's stitched into the cosmic fabric, a neighbor among countless others. And this connection is not abstract. It's real, physical, shaped by the same gravity that keeps your feet on the ground. When you look up at the stars, you're seeing a few sequins on the edge of a much larger garment. The true clothing of the cosmos stretches beyond sight, beyond imagination. If this web feels eerily familiar, maybe it should. Zoom far enough into a brain scan, and the network of neurons looks startlingly like the cosmic web. Both are systems of nodes and connections, hubs linked by filaments, voids separating clusters. Of course, one exists inside your skull, the other spans billions of light years, but the resemblance raises the fun, half-poetic idea that the universe itself might be thinking. Or maybe it's just that nature loves patterns, repeating them from the tiniest scales to the grandest. Either way, it leaves you with the unsettling, awe-filled realization that you and the universe share more design similarities than you'd expect. And here's the part that hooks your imagination. If galaxies are woven into a web and we're just one speck on a strand, how many other civilizations might be strung along these threads too? How many lights blink on and off across this net, unnoticed by us because the web is so staggeringly vast? Maybe the cosmic web isn't just a structure, it's a stage, waiting for connections not just of matter, but of minds. The cosmic web shows us that we are not in a random universe, but a connected one. And as you drift along these threads in your imagination, you're left with a question that's both scientific and personal. If gravity has spun this grand pattern out of nothing, what other hidden designs might still be waiting in the fabric of the cosmos? That thought lingers, like a thread unspooling toward the next mystery. What if I told you the universe might be running on a timer? Not the kind that dings when your cookies are done, but one that ticks toward the ultimate fate of everything. Galaxies, stars, atoms, even the last lonely photons of light. The timer isn't made of gears or numbers, it's written into the expansion of space itself, and gravity is sitting at the control panel, deciding whether the universe keeps drifting outward forever or eventually folds back on itself. Sounds dramatic, doesn't it? It is. Welcome to the story of gravity and the shape of forever. Here's the setup. After the Big Bang, the universe wasn't static. It exploded outward. Galaxies rushed away from each other like guests leaving a party after the music got awkward. Gravity, however, wasn't ready to let everyone go so easily. Every star, every cluster of galaxies, every speck of matter pulled back with its invisible leash. The big question became, who wins? Does the expansion keep going until space stretches so far that galaxies lose sight of one another? Or does gravity stage a comeback, pulling everything back into a cosmic encore? Let's put it into a metaphor. Picture a rocket launched into the sky. If it doesn't go fast enough, Earth's gravity drags it back down. If it hits just the right speed, it can orbit forever, never escaping, never falling. And if it blasts past that speed, gravity shrugs, says, well, fine then, and lets it fly off into deep space. The universe is basically that rocket. Expansion is the thrust, gravity is the pull, and forever depends on which side gets the last word. For decades, scientists sketched out three main endings for this cosmic drama. Option 1, the Big Crunch. Expansion slows, halts, then reverses, collapsing everything back into a single dense point. Imagine rewinding the universe like a VHS tape. Ask your parents, kids, until galaxies smash together and all of space folds in on itself. Dramatic, fiery, and final. Option 2, eternal balance. Expansion slows but never stops, hovering at the edge of collapse without tipping over. This is the Goldilocks ending, forever balanced between flying apart and falling together. And then option 3, the Big Freeze. Expansion doesn't just continue, it accelerates, leaving galaxies drifting farther and farther apart until the night sky grows empty and stars burn out one by one. Space itself stretches into a cold, dark silence, not exactly cheerful, but undeniably poetic. So which one is it? For a long time, cosmologists weren't sure. They measured galaxies, counted stars, tracked the tug-of-war between expansion and gravity. Then, in the late 1990s, something astonishing turned up. Using distant supernova as cosmic mile markers, scientists discovered the universe isn't just expanding, it's speeding up. Imagine throwing a ball in the air, expecting it to slow down and fall, only to see it accelerate upward instead. That's not supposed to happen. And yet, here we are, living in a universe where the expansion is picking up pace. This revelation added a whole new twist: dark energy. Nobody knows what it is, but it acts like a mysterious force pushing the universe outward, working against gravity. Suddenly, the Big Crunch looked a lot less likely. Instead, the Big Freeze, or something even stranger, jumped to the front of the line. The idea is almost cruelly ironic. The very fabric of space may keep stretching until galaxies lose sight of one another. Billions of years from now, if some future astronomer looks up at the night sky, they may see nothing at all, just darkness, because everything else will have drifted too far away for light to reach. But wait, there's even a wilder possibility. If dark energy keeps growing stronger, it could rip the universe apart in a scenario called the Big Rip. Galaxies would be torn from one another, stars ripped from galaxies, planets pulled away from stars, atoms ripped apart until even protons unravel. It's the most extreme breakup ever. Gravity doesn't just lose, it gets humiliated. But before you panic, don't worry. If the Big Rip happens, it's trillions of years away. By then, humanity will have either evolved into beings of pure energy or still be arguing about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. So, what does this all mean for you, here and now? It means the universe is not static wallpaper. It has a story, and gravity is one of its authors. The fact that you can even sit and think about forever is because gravity shaped stars, galaxies, and planets, which in turn shaped you. And the same force is quietly writing the last chapter, even if we don't yet know the ending. Is forever a slow freeze, a violent rip, or a grand collapse? The truth is, the cosmos keeps us guessing. Maybe the most profound thing about all this isn't which scenario wins, but the fact that we can ask the question at all. A species of star-born primates living on a small planet around an ordinary star has the audacity to wonder about the end of time itself. That curiosity is gravity's legacy too. Without it, there'd be no stars, no Earth, no brains to ponder the fate of everything. Gravity isn't just about falling apples, it's about asking how the story ends. And if the idea of the universe stretching into nothingness feels a bit depressing, flip it around. It means every moment you experience now, every sunrise, every laugh, every late-night snack, is happening in a universe still full of light and connection. We live in the golden age of the cosmos, when galaxies still shine, when the night sky is still crowded, when forever hasn't yet chosen its shape. And that's not bleak at all. That's beautiful. So as you drift out of this chapter, keep this thought with you. Gravity has carried us from the birth of stars to the edge of forever, and its whisper is still shaping what comes next. But beyond gravity, beyond collapse or endless expansion, another mystery waits, one that may hold the real key to the universe's destiny. And that, my curious friend, is where we'll turn our gaze next. Have you ever stopped mid-breath and thought, wait a second, why am I still here? Not in the deep, existential way, though that's tempting, but in the practical sense. Why don't you just drift off into the sky like a balloon that slipped from a child's hand? The answer is the same force that wrangles planets into orbits and persuades galaxies to cluster together: gravity. Right now, as you lie there, it's tugging on every atom of you, not with drama, not with fanfare, but with quiet authority. You don't need to chase black holes or measure cosmic filaments to know this force. You live inside its grip every second of your life. It's the reason your bed feels like a bed, and not like a trampoline in zero-G. It's the reason you drop your phone on your face when scrolling in bed and curse physics instead of your grip strength. Gravity can feel like a distant cosmic player, the stuff of Einstein equations and Hubble telescope images, but it's also the most personal force you'll ever experience. Think about it. Your entire sense of down exists because Earth is pulling you toward its center. If Earth suddenly turned off its gravitational field, which, don't worry, is not an option, you wouldn't just float in a relaxed way. You'd be in chaos, along with oceans, air, and pretty much everything else that clings to the surface of this planet. Gravity isn't just a background character, it's the set, the stage, and the lighting rig, all rolled into one. And yet, even as it holds you, gravity connects you to everything else. It's wild to realize that the exact same physics pressing you into your mattress is the reason stars fuse hydrogen, the reason moons circle planets, the reason galaxies arc into spirals like pinwheels tossed across the dark. You might feel small when you think of the universe, but you're wired into the same system that steers it. You and Andromeda are under the same management. And in a few billion years, Earth and Andromeda's stars will dance closer, colliding and merging, a grand light show written into the future. You won't be around for that cosmic ballet, but your atoms, recycled and repurposed, might. It helps to zoom in. Every breath you take is shaped by gravity. When you exhale, carbon dioxide molecules spread, pulled downward to mix with the lower atmosphere. The blood in your body moves thanks to your heart, yes, but also because gravity sets a challenge your veins and arteries have adapted to overcome. Without gravity, even swallowing would be complicated. You'd be trying to coax food down your throat in the awkward free fall of space instead of letting it slide toward your stomach like a marble rolling down a hill. This pull we hardly think about is baked into how our bodies work. Gravity has literally sculpted us. Your legs evolved to support you against it, your spine curves to balance you in it, and your muscles develop their strength in response to it. That's why astronauts who spend months floating in orbit return with weaker bones and softer muscles. In space, without Earth tugging constantly, the body shrugs and says, well, if I don't have to fight gravity, why bother keeping all this density and strength? It's only when they come back that they realize how much Earth's pull was woven into their health. You, in contrast, are in training every day without realizing it. Walking across the room is a mini weightlifting session against a planetary force field. Even lying in bed, you're participating. Gravity's workout never pauses. What's even more poetic is that gravity has always been democratic. It doesn't care if you're a mountain, a mouse, or a mug of tea. It pulls everything with the same acceleration. If you've heard the famous story of Galileo dropping balls off the Leaning Tower of Pisa, you know the punchline. A heavy cannonball and a lighter one fall at the same rate, so long as air resistance doesn't interfere. Centuries later, astronauts reenacted the experiment on the moon, dropping a hammer and a feather. Both landed together, in perfect unison, as if the universe was saying, yes, Galileo was right. And you can feel that law in your own body every time you trip over your shoelace. But gravity is more than a physical force. It's also a reminder of belonging. No matter how far you wander, whether you climb mountains or cross oceans, Earth always has you on a tether. You might feel lost in life sometimes, drifting in questions and uncertainties, but physically, you're never lost. You're always claimed by the Earth beneath you. You're stitched into the same pattern that stitches together galaxies. That's not a small thing. It means you don't just live in the universe, you're tied into its fabric, connected to its largest mysteries through the simplest act of being pulled downward. Maybe that's the strangest comfort of all. You don't need to solve the equations of cosmology or measure the speed of light to know gravity. You feel it in your own breath, in the rise and fall of your chest, in the weight of the blanket over you, in the fact that you're here right now and not drifting away. The pull you feel is the same pull that bends spacetime around stars. The same pull that choreographs galaxy collisions is anchoring your feet to the floor. The ordinary is cosmic, and the cosmic is ordinary. So as you rest, think of this force not as something abstract or intimidating, but as the most personal bond you'll ever have with the universe. Gravity doesn't just hold planets in their orbits, it holds you in place, gives you a sense of direction, keeps you grounded, literally and metaphorically. It is the constant companion that never switches off, the invisible thread that connects you to every other piece of matter that has ever existed. And when you look at it that way, it's hard to not feel that belonging is built into the very physics of existence. Now, as this story closes, picture yourself suspended in that pole, not resisting, not questioning, simply part of the same cosmic rule that bends galaxies and cradles your body. The universe is vast and wild, yes, but you don't float outside it. You are inside it, claimed by it, woven into its design. Every heartbeat, every breath, every step you've ever taken has happened in partnership with gravity. And as you drift into rest, know this: the cosmos isn't something distant you have to reach for. It already has you. It always has. And in that embrace, you end, not apart from the universe, but within it, forever carried by its pull.